learners, I welcome you all to lecture number 35, and in this lecture we are looking at the case gold reserve versus Venezuela. So in this case also there was an environmental measure that was involved, and that is why I have chosen this case for this course. Gold Reserve was a Canadian corporation, Gold Reserve Incorporated, and that's a claimant. And Venezuela is this host state where the investment was made. And the BIT that was involved in this case was Canada Venezuela BIT. So what was the subject matter of this case? So subject matter of this case related to a concession known as Brisas concession for extracting gold that was acquired by a Venezuelan company. Initially, the Brisas concession was granted to a Venezuelan company, and that is called as Brisas company. Now, what the Venezuelan company did was, it sort of acquired all the rights and everything, then it transferred the concession to a company called a Venezuela Gold Reserve de Venezuela. So basically, Gold Reserve de Venezuela was a Venezuelan subsidiary of a US company. So there was a US company and the Venezuelan subsidiary of the US company was Gold Reserve de Venezuela. Now, Gold Reserve de Venezuela acquired the concession rights from Brisas company. The Brisas company was again a domestic Venezuelan company. I hope you've understood this transaction. And even after the Brisas concession was granted, in fact, the Brisas company had also applied for rights to mine hard rock mineralization. It wanted to extract gold, copper and molybdenum, right? So that is something that it wanted to extract. So that was also granted, and that concession is known as Unicernio concession. So essentially in this case we are concerned with two concessions. One is Brisas concession and the second one is Unicernio concession. Now what had happened was, in the year, the Unicernio concession was granted in 1998, and in 1998 a new company was incorporated in Canada, and that company is Gold Reserve Incorporated, the claimant in this case. Please note, the concessions were already there, the company comes later, right? So now what happened was, in Canada there's this company that was established, then there was corporate restructuring that happened. So share swap and all of that happened. So essentially, as a result of the corporate restructuring, the Venezuelan subsidiary Gold Reserve de Venezuela, that became the Canadian corporation became the parent company for the Venezuelan subsidiary, which was Gold Reserve de Venezuela. So that is how now the Canadian company can espouse a claim and can act as a claimant in this particular case. After the corporate restructuring, this is what had happened. There's also something that we need, because here Venezuela questions the investor status of the claimant. So for that purpose, we need to understand this particular transaction. That is why I explained it. Let me once again sum it up. There was this US company had a subsidiary in Venezuela, Gold Reserve de Venezuela. This Gold Reserve de Venezuela acquires a concession from a Venezuelan company known as Brisas company, right? So what are the concessions that the Venezuelan subsidiary has? Brisas concession and Unicernio concession. But due to corporate restructuring, a newly incorporated company in Canada becomes a parent company for the Venezuelan subsidiary, which was Gold Reserve de Venezuela. Okay, so this is the structure. With this structure, the claimant had brought the case. When at the time of filing the case, this was the arrangement. Now, what the Venezuelan subsidiary Gold Reserve de Venezuela wanted to do was, it wanted to develop a broader project, that is, it wanted to exploit Brisas concession, Unicernio concession, and then it also involves some other parcels of land as well. I'm not going into much details of the case. This case is a very factually complex case, and precisely for this reason, I have two segments to discuss about the factual matrix of this case itself. So even a brief version of this case requires two segments to discuss about the very essential facts. So I would say this is a very factually complicated case. If you want a better understanding of this, you will have to read the original award. So now what had happened was there were other parcels of land that also was involved in the broader project that the Venezuelan subsidiary had in mind. So Venezuelan subsidiary started using the term Brisas project. When it uses the term Brisas project, it means Brisas concession, Unicornio concession, as well as these parcels of land. All of that together. That is what it had in mind with regard to Brisas project. That is also important because Venezuela contest Brisas project refers to Brisas concession and not the project as claimant is claiming and all of that. So that is why we need to understand what was the conception from the perspective of investor and from the perspective of the host state. Now, after acquiring both the concessions, what the claimant started doing was, the claimant started referring to the term Brisas project in its communication with the host state, and this started from May 1999. If you see the communication that the claimant had with Venezuela from May 1999 onwards, it started referring to a Brisas project. Now, Venezuela states that its own law does not permit having a composite project involving multiple parcels of land involving multiple concession. That is what Venezuela stated. So Venezuela stated that even the claimant knew about this. Why did Venezuela say that the claimant knew about it? Because Venezuela contended that claimant had proposed for amending the mining law in order to allow for composite project, a proposal that was ultimately rejected. So Venezuela's contention was claimant already knew about it. So when they wrote Brisas project in their communication, only referred to Brisas concession and not the entire project as envisaged by the claimant. So this is one thing that Venezuela had brought in. So even then, what we need to see was, so the Brisas project word was used in the communication. So what do we mean by communication? The two ministries were involved in this case. One was Ministry of Mines. I mean, there were different names. Venezuela at one point of time changed the name of its ministries, but let me not complicate by referring to the original names and all of that. I thought it is better if we use a generic term. So I am going to use a generic term, that is Ministry of Mines and Ministry of Environment. This is not what the ministry is called in Venezuela. It's just for our sake of our convenience, I am referring to these terms. So two ministries were involved. One was Ministry of Mines, one was Ministry of Environment. Ministry of Mines was involved with regard to mining rights, right? And Ministry of Environment was involved with regard to granting environmental clearances, environmental permits. This was the role. So now what the claimant did was, the claimant submitted a feasibility study by referring to the term Brisas project, and the same was approved by the Ministry of Mines. Then later, the claimant also submitted an environmental and social impact assessment, and the abbreviation comes to VESIA. So we can call it as VISA, right? So VISA was something that was submitted by the claimant to the Ministry of Environment, and the Ministry of Environment also approved the VISA and did not raise any objection, not even to the point that the Brisas project term was used. So that also happened. So after this, Ministry of Environment issues a document of a construction permit, phase 1 construction permit, to the claimant, and one of the conditions of the construction permit is that the claimant should get an initiation act signed by the Ministry of Environment. And as per the understanding of the claimant, this was a mere procedural formality. So the claimant thought that there will be a checklist approach. If the claimant has done this, then as a matter of formality, the initiation act would be signed. But after the construction permit was issued, the Ministry of Environment refused to sign the Initiation Act, and it brought in environmental concerns for not signing the Initiation Act. And claimant was little taken back because this is something that's a mere procedural formality, and as per claimant's opinion, the only thing they were asked to do was change the access road, and that's something that the claimant had already complied with. So they were expecting that the Initiation Act would be, as a matter of formality, be signed. So this is something that the claimant did not expect. So Initiation Act was not signed. Then later in April 2008, the construction permit that is already issued to the claimant was revoked. Once the construction permit was revoked, that is at one end. There is another thing that had also happened. That was initially this Brisas project was given to Brisas company, the local Venezuelan company, for a period of 20 years. However, that can be extended. That can be extended to a period of 2 10-year terms period. That is another 20 years, but that 20 years cannot be at one stretch. So after the expiry of 20-year period, you can extend it for another 10 years, then you can further extend it for another 10 years, right? So, and this extension for 10 years will happen provided before the expiry of the concession, 6 months before the expiry of the concession, you make an application. That is when the first extension would be granted. So accordingly, in October 2007, our claimant has made a request for the extension, but there was no reply on that extension. Now this is where things get interesting, because there is one, as per the Venezuelan law itself, this is concept positive administration silence. That is Article 25 of the 1999 mining law. What it stated was, if you had applied for something and there is 6 months silence, that you don't get any reply for a period of 6 months, then you can presume that the same has been approved. This is what the Venezuelan laws say, right? So what the claimant is here claiming was, pursuant to the application of that provision, in our opinion, our extension request has been granted. But what happened was, Venezuela issued a form to the claimant, a surface tax form, and this procedure will only happen in terms of a expired concession. That is when then the claimant started appealing it. I mean, our concession has not expired. Why would we fill that surface tax form? So that is when the claimant started appealing this particular decision, and then the claimant stated that the concession is very well alive. The reason being because concept of positive administrative silence and all of that. Then that appeal was rejected, saying that you have not submitted any proof that extension has been granted. Extension was not granted. There was no overt action that had happened from the side of Venezuela to say extension has been granted. So on that ground, Venezuela rejected the appeal of the claimant, stating that the surface tax form we need not fill it, because the concession is still there, extension has been granted. So that happened. So October 2007 they had filed for an extension, but what had happened was, then October 2008 they had stated that the Brisas concession has been terminated, and then in fact Venezuela had asked the claimant to hand over the concession back to the state, and all of these had happened. So now for the termination of the Brisas concession, there were 3 internal memorandums that were relied upon. So these 3 internal memorandums refer to certain violations that were done by the claimant. So as per Venezuelan law, each mining concession will be governed by the general mining law and otherwise the general laws of Venezuela. Other than these general laws, there is something called special advantages, right? So these special advantages were also applicable on these mining concessions. So certain special advantages, Venezuela stated, was violated by the claimant. So the claimant had violated these special advantages that had resulted in the termination of the Brisas concession. So since the special advantages were discussed in much more detail, especially to answer certain questions of fact by the tribunal, let us look at those in detail in the next segment of this lecture. So let me conclude this segment, but we have not done discussing the factual matrix of the case. This is just one part of the factual matrix of the case, which talks about the measures taken by the Venezuela, but we will discuss about what aspects of special advantages were violated, what is the claimant's reply or take with regard to these allegations, as well as the environmental concerns that Venezuela had. So those aspects of the factual circumstance of this case we'll discuss it in the second segment of this lecture. Thank you.